5,000 years ago, a brand new cutting-edge technology arrived. Somebody mixed two molten metals to produce the world's first alloy, bronze. A technological revolution had begun, one that would change the balance of power and bring into being the first large-scale industries. A summer morning in 1973. Just another day for the two mine workers on duty at the northern pit of the Tonglu Mountain open-cast mine in Hubei. Suddenly, 40 meters down, they hit an obstacle and their day's work ground to a halt. "40 years on, 80-year-old Zhu Shuchu still clearly remembers what they found that day.
都是往地下挖过，再降一点，那就下去10米。现在到了3点多钟以后，就挖好多木头来了。
What were logs doing 40 meters beneath the stony ground? But strange as it was to find wood buried underground, it wasn't unprecedented. Villagers from the Tonglu Mountain area had found caches of buried timber like this before.
大进这树木之间挖出来以后呢，它这个颜色是欧的那个黑颜色。
What's more, Tonglu locals looked forward to finding them. Burning with a pure blue flame and producing little smoke, they were a highly prized source of fuel. Little did anyone know, these logs were about to fuel the burning curiosity of the archaeological community. Their existence pointed to a secret buried deep for thousands of years. But what was this black wood? Was it ebony, a precious black hardwood, long regarded by the Chinese as having magical properties, or was it something more mundane? Thanks to earthquakes, floods, and landslides, trees often come to be buried. Deep beneath the earth, wood can be preserved for tens of thousands of years, eventually becoming completely carbonized, naturally transformed into charcoal, black as coal. This would certainly explain why it was such a good fuel. High-grade charcoal burns with a pure blue flame, just like the wood found on the Tonglu Mountain. So, was it ebony or simply high-grade charcoal? And there was something else unusual about the wood. Instead of being scattered randomly, the logs appeared to be stacked in an orderly way, as if deliberately processed and cached. Human intervention seemed a better explanation for the presence of the logs than any natural event. But what? It wasn't long before archaeologists were mining the mountain in search of an answer.
他们就第二天早上很快就赶过来了，赶过来之后呢，就告诉大家，这个呢无论如何不能破坏。
40 meters down, they made another amazing discovery. "13 bronze axe heads, but no ordinary axe heads. with the biggest measuring half a metre across and weighing 16.3 kilograms, more than 3 times heavier than the biggest modern-day axe heads. They were real monsters. Wielding an axe like that would have required almost superhuman strength. Who made them, and why? According to local legend, back in the Tang dynasty, rebel leader Huang Chao had camped here when he attacked and occupied nearby Chang. Maybe the archaeologists had discovered evidence of his army's smelting operations. Others thought another historical episode could provide the answer. During the Song dynasty, the Tonglu Mountain was on the front line in Yue Fei's campaign against the Jin. Maybe the axes were to do with this. Could there even be a link with Yue Fei's legendary Sword of Da Ye? One by one, the bronze axes were packed up and sent to the Huangshe Museum.
他们就做了一个木盒子，寄到中国历史博物馆。没有几天呢，中国历史博物馆就发了一个电报来，宝石现场，随即我们派人来。
What no one realized at the time was just how big this find would turn out to be. The world was about to learn that thousands of years ago, bronze was being produced here on an industrial scale. Bronze is an alloy, not a pure metal. It is a mixture of two different metals, copper and tin. When Danish archaeologist Christian Jørgensen Thomsen named the periods of human history, this metal was given to one of them: the Stone Age, the Bronze Age, and the Iron Age. But China entered the Bronze Age at a relatively late stage. The earliest evidence of the use of bronze in China has been found in sites in Yanshi in Henan province, the heartland of the Litou culture that flourished between 2080 BC to 1580 BC. Until iron began to be used on a large scale, mastery of bronze meant access to the best weapons, tools, and utensils.
张光直先生曾经讲过，他甚至认为，就是2里头的迁都，就是这些迁都都是追逐这个资源的，就是盐和铜。
所以夏商王朝，尤其是商王朝，大概我觉得就是一个矿业大托拉斯啊，圈圈是收罗铜、收罗锡，然后铸造我的青铜器，一是礼制需要，一个是兵器的需要。
Between 1953 and 1965, during the excavation of Shang dynasty ruins in Anyang in Henan province, 3 bronze casting sites were identified, leaving no doubt that more than 3,000 years ago, the capital of the Shang dynasty was the center of a flourishing Bronze Age culture. But casting was just one link of the complex chain of bronze production. Before any bronzeware could be made, the raw ores that provided the copper and tin had to be mined and smelted. A whole industry was required to keep Bronze Age society going.
铸造我们研究得很透的，这个中国的青铜器怎么铸造的？是混铸法还是分铸法？分铸里头是，比如像一件器物，先铸耳朵还是先铸器身？然后怎么组接起来的？等等这些东西都已经搞清楚了啊。但是当时就是怎么样的冶炼和怎么样的这个采矿不知道。
For decades, archaeologists conducted extensive investigations around the capitals of Shang and Zhou dynasties in search of evidence. They failed to find a single clue.
比如说我们在安阳发掘时，旁边有一个地名就叫水冶，跟冶好像有关系，就跑到那儿去什么也没有。
The absence of archaeological evidence for mining and smelting in China has prompted some to speculate on the existence of a bronze road. Long before the Silk Road, they argue, East and West were linked by the trade in bronze. In time, the mining and smelting technology that allowed ancient China to make its own bronze arrived via this route. Could it really be true that early China lacked the wherewithal to manufacture bronze of its own, and that the splendor of Bronze Age China was in fact the result of foreign cultural and technological influence?
就是我们认为这个过程中间一定是受到了西亚甚至中亚这些地区的影响，什么路径我们还不知道，但是这个交流是双向的。 就是说，我们的技术呢，也有可能也影响了他们。
Whether or not this prehistoric bronze road actually existed, the archaeological community was faced with an urgent question. Where was the bronze traded along this route mined and smelted? What was its original source? Could the mysterious copper axes found in the Tonglu Mountain provide a clue? So what exactly were the relics found by the two workers in 1973? Could they cast any light on the source of the copper required to power China's glittering Bronze Age? What had researchers of the archaeologists revealed about the origin of the axes? Located by the Daye Lake in Daye, Huangshe in Hubei province, the Tonglu Mountain has a long history and consists of several hills. The Daye County Annals dwell on some of the peculiarities of the local geology. On these flat-top hills littered with great rocks, granules were often found after heavy rains, granules of a strange greenish color.
为什么叫铜山？就是每次下了大雨以后啊，这个在石头堆里头就可以看到这个铜绿色的小颗粒，就跟雪花一样的就露出来了。
This greenish color is known as verdigris, the color of oxidized copper. Where you see verdigris, copper is bound to be near. Could it be that the granules mentioned in the local annals indicate that the Tonglu Mountain has long been known as a source of copper? Shaonan in southern Tibet is dotted with lakes and crisscrossed with rivers. Due to its varied terrain, weather and climate here are extremely variable. Here it's possible to experience all 4 seasons in a single day. Just a few kilometers can make the difference between one type of weather and a completely different one. This geological diversity is reflected in the richness of its animal and plant resources. But these aren't the only gifts nature has bestowed. These rolling hills abound with valuable minerals. Hot on their trail are 2 geologists, surveying the area for a new mining operation. Local knowledge is essential for their work. Guided by villagers, they follow the stream to an area long known by locals to be rich in copper silts, washed down from the mountains. At the foot of the mountain they take samples of sediment from the riverbank, carefully recording where they were taken. Back in the lab, these samples will undergo rigorous scientific analysis. Knowing precisely how much copper and other metallic elements each sample of sediment contains will enable them to identify the areas most likely to have veins of copper ore. Thanks to the information yielded by the tests, the mining engineers are able to determine the location of the copper ore veins. An exposed side of a precipice bears the telltale signs of copper ore, patches of verdigris. This is malachite. Dark green, sometimes crystal clear, high-grade pieces are even known to produce a spectacular gloss. In colour, malachite somewhat resembles the green spots on peacock feathers. Could it be that the granules mentioned in the Dyer County Annals were in fact malachite? Did ancient people make use of the ore resources found in the hills to smelt copper to make bronze? Planet Earth has existed for thousands of millions of years. During the course of its long evolution, various geological structures formed deep within the Earth's crust. Over time, natural weathering, oxidation, and eluviation reveals the presence of these minerals, signs that people eventually learned to read. The presence of malachite is one of them. Where there's malachite, there's copper. Indeed, malachite is itself more than 50% pure copper and has long been regarded as one of the best raw materials for copper smelting. So it was that, thanks to malachite, the ancient Egyptians were mining for copper on the Sinai Peninsula as early as 4. Role in art. In St. Petersburg's Winter Palace in Russia, there is a whole room decorated with malachite. It also provided the blue and green pigments used in traditional Chinese painting. Back in the Tonglu Mountain, there's a widely known story that involves malachite. Long, long ago there was a beautiful fairy dressed in green who lived in the Yaoche palace. Then she fell in love with a handsome craftsman who smelted copper, turning herself into a peacock so she could enter the world of mortals to tryst with her love. But when the Jade Emperor found out about her forbidden love affair, he was angered, transforming the fairy to stone and sending her to hell. The craftsman desperately dug into the ground in search of her. Digging until his hands were raw, all he could find was a lump of shiny green stone, the last trace on earth of the peacock green fairy. That's why Tonglu natives have a special name for malachite, peacock stone. And just like the craftsman in the story, many people have never ceased digging for it. The question is, how long ago did they start digging?
当然，这个神话传说呢，这是一种美好的向往，反映了大禹的很早的时期，这个地方啊，它这个人类的矿场对大禹的矿的认识是很早的。
The discovery of the bronze axes at the Daiye site roused great excitement at the National History Museum. Several days later, an archaeological team arrived at the Tonglu Mountain.
我们对这玩意太陌生了，又没参考资料，
涉及到问题全是新的啊，矿是怎么回事，地质结构是怎么回事，这就是跟当地的这些个工程师们请教。
The results of the preliminary exploration hinted at something nobody had ever discovered in China before, evidence of a Bronze Age copper mine. As it became clear that the ancient mine workings were so extensive that they significantly overlapped the present-day ones, there was no way the archaeologists could do the work they needed to do to understand this ancient mine without interrupting an essential present-day industry. Unless a solution was found, there was a risk that every last trace of a stupendous ancient mining operation would be destroyed forever.
他们这个生产计划是硬指标的，是硬指标，你不能为我们久留，就是要我们赶快来做发掘工作。
Now, the only trace of the 8 years' work carried out by these archaeological sleuths is the State Council-approved museum dedicated to the ancient mine. But for a real appreciation of their achievement, you need to look deeper. Beneath this mountain lies proof that ancient China mined copper on a truly industrial scale.